This is the first round of the Ballistas Force Nothing tournament, and we're looking at Engin and Richard's Game 1. We have an Inca's War. We'll speed up here. So they started with 7x7. It's agreed on by the two of them to start with this size. Normally what you'll see is the players delete the town centers. Both town centers are deleted. And with Incas in a war, in a 1v1, you can expect to see a lot of trash units later on, and whoever can make the most out of their trash units will build the most bank and win the game that way. Engin already has his 5 farms. Richard is on 2. And Engin practiced a lot for this round 1. You can tell that from his build order. He has his 5 farms up. He's going up to feudal, while Richard is in Dark Age with 4 farms. Engin gets the first sell. You see he has over 1,000 gold. And if we look here, Richard has all this wood he hasn't sold. Engin got all those prices. But Richard's on 6 farms now, which is 1 more than Engin. Now on a 3-player map size, you have a lot of time. You can see just how far these players have to cut to each other before the fighting can start. So that's very forgiving for a slower start, because you have the time to build up to fight. Second town center for Engin. Mill upgrade, interesting. That does take a bit of food away from a player early on, which can hurt. You'll notice Richard has 2 town centers, 8 farms. Engin still has just 5 and is going 3 town centers, so he won't have the food production to be able to have vills constantly coming out of these 3 town centers. Although with Incas, you can get away with that a bit, because houses give you 10 population space each, so he'll quickly get the space for farms. Though he's already on the way to M. So this 3rd town center didn't really pay off in Castle Age, since we can see he's still only on 45 villagers, and Richard is on 53 with only 2 town centers. We'll slow down just a bit, see how they handle Imperial Age. So you really want to boom here. Whoever can boom the best is going to have the best position when the fighting starts. Engin is sticking with 3 town centers, 14 farms, whereas Richard added a 4th, so he'll have a lead in villagers if he can keep them coming out. But he already has about a 15 villager lead, and he's quickly adding farms. Well, he did add 1 or 2. The castle coming up. This will be big for trebuchets, which will give a lot of range, and is the best way to take out buildings as Incas, because if you opt for rams, you're going to have to get the rams through a ton of infantry. Engin has gone 5 town centers. No castle yet, but he has a blacksmith. And Richard still has the villager lead by far. Engin has a lot more resources in the bank though. Richard is sticking with 4 town centers, adding farms. Now whoever can establish the best foothold in the middle is going to have the best position for the fighting, because they will have an easier time pushing through the middle. And it's a game of tug of war, except instead of pulling, you're pushing, ideally, if you want to win. So not only are trebuchets good for buildings, but they give a huge line of sight. If we look at all that Richard can see, you can see about halfway from this end of the map to Engin's. Now the bases do start in roughly opposite sides of the map, so they do have some idea where the other player is. Engin opted to wall his economy. He can hear Richard, can't quite see. Now we'll slow down just for the start, see how Engin reacts. He has these idle villagers not making military buildings, which he's going to quickly need. He's not establishing a foothold for a forward base, which he's going to need as well. 4 barracks is not enough. You want at least 6. You can see Richard is already prepared with 230 pop cap to produce a large army, whereas Engin only has 200 space, but he's quickly building houses. You see a lot of siege from Richard. Scorpions is a good choice. It will negate any infantry that comes from Engin. Now they can see each other. You still see Engin with no army at this point. You want to produce units, get an army out, so that when you do connect, you can come out fighting. And so far the only fighting here has been Richard attacking his own units. That's quickly changing as Engin opens long swords, which these scorpions will chew through. The trebuchets quickly go down. Champions is a strong opening if you can get them upgraded and take out these scorpions. But Richard is using food and wood units against the food and gold from Engin. But Engin does have the better economy. You can see he's sticking with a dozen more villagers than Richard. But right now, all these yellow 2 hands are not pushing. They're fighting units as opposed to getting a better position on the map by moving forward, killing gold units, killing buildings. This is exactly what Richard wants. Trading food and wood units for food and gold units will help him in the long term. Engin is coming forward to build forward buildings. which is what you want to be doing. But those vills are quite unprotected, and Richard is building a lot of momentum here. You can see he has twice the army of Engin, which is going to be tough for Engin to recover from when he only has 8 buildings producing. Now you want a lot more onagers from Engin. Right now, Richard's Arbs counter the infantry, his Scorpions counter the infantry, and the only thing Engin has to answer is this one onager that's attacking Halbs, which is the one unit that the champions will shred. Now Engin's doing the right thing here by fighting on the weaker side of Richard, trying to establish some momentum, but he has no units queued, even though he has enough resources to get up to 250 pop. So this is going to probably be the end for Engin. If we look at the population, Richard almost 100 more than Engin, who recovered a bit too late. Now he has no momentum. Richard has all this army that if he decided to attack with it, would help him push through these buildings here. You can see chemistry still lacking on the trebuchets, but not needed to kill that barracks. Chemistry would help the Scorpions have a bit more damage. Now Halbs is the one unit Engin's making that skirms counter, so not ideal without siege behind, which he does have 4 onagers coming. Now we'll speed up a bit to see who can get through this choke point just in time for some huge shots from the onagers, which is exactly what Engin should be doing. Props to him, although that was not a good trade. Ideally, you would kill all the skirms, kill all the Scorpions, but he just has no units other than this lone halberdier to protect his onagers. So down they go to infantry. This castle is the one thing standing between Richard and Engin's economy, which needs some refreshing. You can see all these vills are walking too far. You could build lumber camps closer to the wood line, delete 5 to 10 vills, and still have the same economy. Although that doesn't matter because Engin is not pot. He's 60 units too small. You can see Richard's skirms doing absolutely nothing against these champions. I think they do 1 damage at a time. Without Ballists, which he has 2, the champions are going to build momentum and be able to push this back. But down goes the castle. Richard has not opted. Oh, he does have a castle, which I did mention earlier. You can see all these buildings from Richard, such a strong position compared to a couple of buildings that are going down to Trebs. At this point, Engin should be adding military buildings here, if his houses were closer together, here, so that he can have production even when his forward base goes down. He is adding more forward buildings, Notice this archery range. Units are trapped behind. Although those 4 skirmishers would not help too much here. Richard just has too much army. If we look, he's fighting with 100 units against less than 10. And that pretty much spells the end, although these 4 skirmishers do get to see some action. Oh, interesting. Oh no, that shed was just idle for a while. Thought he built another castle. If we look at the economy, Richard, really nice job refreshing. Oh, let's not look at that side. Really nice job refreshing his lumber camps. Engin has done that. Now, his economy is in better shape, just in time for his final stand, which is halberdiers. Really, without siege, there's nothing you can do when you're fighting 5 times your army size. Unless you're sending champions against skirmishers, but a couple arbalists will easily pick them off. And Richard could end this at any time by sending a couple skirms here. Would pick off units as they come out. Really what you want to be doing is fighting for space. It's better to let 50 units die if you can gain 10 tiles worth of space than to trade efficiently and get nowhere. And with that, we'll see no more trebuchets from Engin, I'm afraid. He is doing the right thing here, adding production buildings, but it is too late. It does not have siege workshops, other than this one, which is not producing. At this point, Richard has switched into champions, which will quickly shred all the trash that Engin is putting out. If we take a look at economy, Engin has too many resources to be in this position. He should have sold food, bought more siege, used it more efficiently, and he would be in a better spot. As we see, Richard has done a nice job maintaining his economy while at the same time having a near full army. It's hovering right around max pop, where Engin doesn't have that as an option without enough houses, and he's nowhere close to his limit. Most of his population would die to 2 onager shots. But Richard's onagers are not seeing much action here. There we go. But unfortunately, killing scrams is a better choice than the trees for Richard. And as Engin's siege workshop falls, so do his chances winning game 1. That's the way to fight skirmishers, is onagers or champions or hussar, preferably onagers. Richard is in the economy, and that is it for game 1, and I just missed that shot. Guess Engin has one last hurrah. He's finally using all that res he had banked up. And actually pushing back by killing Richard's siege. Got enough momentum with the skirmishers he'd built up to fight anything except for champions. With no onagers on the way, those skirmishers will be able to do quite a bit of work until these champions reach them, which they have. Richard has too much food, should sell that and make more champions. That's all he needs to finish this off. Again, he's fighting units, not the right ones. There he goes, when he should be running in, which he is now. Killing Bills, cementing his win in game 1. Not a good trade there. Onagers are coming out, but they're not being controlled. They're getting killed before they can respond. And that is GG. It's called... Well played to both. I think these players both were on equal footing or close to it for a lot of the game. And again, just not utilizing his population space efficiently. It's better to have full population with weaker units than 6 military units and be underpopped. You can see Richard had the most kills by far, most units lost, which is impressive to get both. And now on to the next game, which is Japanese against Vikings. Now this is 11 by 11. With a much slower start for Richard. Vikings do have an economy advantage here. They get free wheelbarrow, free handcart. Though they will lack guilds. But the Japanese also lack guilds. So what we'll see here is infantry against infantry. These are both infantry civs, with Japanese infantry fighting faster, which if Engin does not have the same amount, will not matter. Very important to see both players utilize their population space. You can tell again, Engin is more practiced with this build order. Although first cell does not matter nearly as much on 11 by 11 as it did on the smaller map, because you don't have as much wood banked up by the time you can sell. Castle Age buildings go up, but Engin already in castle, already adding a second town center, and soon we'll be adding a third. But no, okay, he's going for economy upgrades. Richard, we can see, be adding a second town center and a third town center. Engin already at 3. Although they are both just about at the same number of vills. Both of them have plenty of vills queued up. And we get to see Engin. It's housed. Doesn't fully have this build order down, it would seem. Although getting housed is not uncommon. These lumber camps, he wants to be super efficient by walking 1 tile instead of the 2 to his town center. 4 town centers, does not have the houses to support that, does not have the food to support that. Would be far better to go to Imperial Age, chop some trees down, get space for more farms and houses, then add a bunch of town centers, which you can see Richard is already in Imperial Age and has an onager out, can start cutting trees. Engin just now gets to imp. They're fairly even on population, with Engin having much more space for houses due to his build order. Although Richard has gone 5 town centers, is quickly adding houses. You can see has a bit more space. Now it looks like, unfortunately, Engin has guessed that Richard is over here. Whereas Richard expects Engin to be over here. So I think this will work out to Richard's favor. I think he is a little bit better at reacting to the unexpected than Engin currently is. Both have added castles. You can see Engin on 8 town centers as opposed to the 5 from Richard. But Richard still has the villager lead. So I guess it's not how many town centers you have, but what you do with them. Engin has plenty of food, so why doesn't he have villagers queued? You do not need 8 town centers if you aren't going to make villas out of any of them. Although, each town center does add the same population space as 1 house. So I suppose it's not the worst thing. Now we'll slow it down here. Engin has no idea where Richard is. Richard has the trebuchet. If he moved it forward, could see where Engin is. Engin is going to expect Richard to come from here. Although they probably could hear each other cutting. So Engin may be able to react. Richard can see. Engin cannot. We do see 6 barracks from Engin. The 7th on the way, preparing to fight. Interesting, we see archery ranges from the Vikings player, which will be useful for countering Japanese infantry. Trebuchet opening again, which Engin has mirrored, although his trebuchets are acting as target practice for onagers, giving line of sight, whereas Richard's are also acting as target practice for Engin's onagers, if he can get them out in time. And we're going to watch 800 gold go down the drain. Nope, Engin instead opting to target pikes, and now is losing his siege. Vikings do not get halberdiers. Japanese in a similar position. Pikes versus pikes. sure this is the content you're here to see. Full pike war. Skirmishers going to quickly shred the pikes. The trebuchet war going on at the same time, with Engin coming out on top. You want to be switching into champs really on this size of a map. Number games, please. You should have the resources to fight with gold units. We see the 2 units from Engin pulling most of Richard's army back. Huge overreaction from Richard when his castle would quickly kill if he had ballistics. 5 villagers could kill this, and he has 20 units chasing. A good play from Engin. Scouting. Will he see any action? No. Meanwhile, this is the difference between players and is what decided the first game. A strong forward base from Richard as opposed to some stray buildings from Engin. So it's much more aesthetically pleasing. Produced much better results in the first game. Again, sending in 1 or 2 champs at a time. It's a good way to lose gold. Not a good way to fight skirmishers. Halberdiers, not a good way to fight skirmishers. Again, this is an issue of Engin not having enough units. We can see Engin has 30, Richard has close to 90. Engin lacking chemistry, which doesn't really matter if you're only attacking trees. If you have as much siege as you have other units, you are not going to be able to protect your siege. Although you don't need to protect it if no one is attacking it. And down go the skirmishers. Champion comes forward to take out the siege, but decides not to. And finally, we see one champion getting 500 gold worth of units. Very productive champion. Dies to halberdiers. We see fighting in a choke point. Engin coming forward with trebuchets with nothing to protect. Still lacking chemistry. Meanwhile, he's tidying up his lumber camps. This time, nope, he's not popped. He just does not have enough production buildings. Even though he has them fully queued, he can't stay at full pop because he's losing them too quickly. He needs more buildings and to use them. Champions again will shred trash units. Not only does Richard have more population, but he has better units. And if we look at Richard's economy, he's opted to have lumber camps behind his town centers, so they're safe in case Engin manages to get another straight cav to his base. Again, they're fighting in a choke point. What you would see from higher level players is some opening up to the sides, playing out of the choke points where you can maneuver. That onus would be on the player who's behind if they want to try to come back, or on the player who's ahead if they want to win faster. We're seeing this trash pay off big for Richard simply because he can have more population than Engin, who is plagued by this 250 limit. Engin also has more villagers than Richard, which would mean even if they were both at full pop, Richard would have more units on the field. With the berserkers out, nothing stands in the way for Richard. And no answer to these elite berserks. Who can stop them? These halberdiers mostly walking to their gather point rather than actually fighting. And that spells the end for Engin, who has plenty of res to make gold units. If he made champions, samurai, with onagers, he would quickly win. You definitely don't want to pick Japanese for their horses. You definitely don't want to be fighting Vikings with horses, because Vikings have castle tech that gives them more damage against horses with infantry. And arbalists will shred like cav in small numbers. Not only is Engin underpopped, but his units aren't actually fighting. Richard should be moving forward with his siege to knock down buildings, giving Engin every chance to come back into this game. You want to be adding military buildings here. He has added some here, but again, light cav, not the play here. It's a good way to spend your food, not a good way to win the game against Vikings. Richard set his base untouched, even though that horse did get in. Did not take advantage. We see the walls come up from Engin. His castle will do a lot of damage against infantry, and will help him hold this position until these trebuchets can come clear it. Richard doing the right thing, adding forward buildings, forward lumber camps. And he did opt to add some here, now that he has an outpost up to make sure Engin is not coming for his wood line. This castle did not stop the two berserks from getting in, and that is going to spell the end. And there we go. Richard has played well, won his first two games, and that is the end of the series. Not the last we'll see of either player. There is a bracket for both the winners of the first round and the losers, so we will see both players again in round 2. Again, very one-sided battle here. If you pick Japanese, you have to play to their strengths, which is champions. Engin had the better economy, mostly because he simply wasn't spending enough of it.